What do we do? Okay, now we are live.
Okay, and we are live. Good evening, everybody. I welcome you on the behalf of Cusp to our fifth webinar on mental health, Debunking Therapy Myths. Cusp is a community for entrepreneurs, for artists, for freelancers, and for anybody who wants to do something different and walk their own paths. And we aim to provide a holistic environment, both physical and mental, that can be explored by anybody who's trying to bring about change in society. And in today's webinar, we are very, very happy to have with us Marcos Ribeiro, who is a psychologist with 18 years of professional practice in public and private psychological care, both in Brazil and UK. He's currently working in acute mental health care and private clinic in London, and is also an MSc research student in psychological well-being. We also have with us Shruti Ravindran, who is the founder of Happy Space. She is a trained psychologist, workplace well-being and learning consultant, and a millennial and Gen Z coach. Skilled in life coaching, psychotherapy, learning strategy and design, behavioral assessment, and people management consulting, Shruti believes that everyone deserves to be happy without spending excessive time and money in never-ending therapy sessions. That is why she came up with the Happy Space approach, which is all about being affordable, action-focused, convenient, and people-centric. She says, seeking help changed my life, and I hope you find the courage to start your journey to happiness. Thank you so much for being with us. And I think as a psychologist myself, there are so many myths that we are faced with and so many lines that we have to face in our daily lives. Some very common ones being, oh my God, you studied psychology. What am I thinking? Therapy, do you make your clients lie down on a couch? You get paid for listening to people. And, oh, are you a therapist? Can you talk to my neighbor? She's going through something. So I've kind of faced all of this. And the first question actually is, because both of you are from two very different settings, what are the myths and taboos that you have heard associated with therapy in your respective places of work? So maybe we start with Marcos.
Okay. I would say the first one regarding mainly UK, as if mental health is a myth on itself, doesn't really exist. Because life is like that, and we need to carry on the way things are. And people take such a long time to realize there is an issue that needs to be addressed. And then I think there is an underestimation about mental health issues compared to the physical health in a hospital setting, for example. And it's interesting to see how UK works and how Brazilian society works, the Latino country and an European country. And for me as a therapist was such a eye opener to see how other society works, like completely opposite as Brazil. Because in Brazil, everyone is talking about emotions all the time, all the connections are based like that. But here is much more what I can see, I can believe. It's not something like I like you and I need to be okay and I need to be 100% to live my life fully. And I think it brings a lot of different myths. In Brazil, it's much more connected to what happens in the therapeutic setting because it's not a very cheap service to run. And then people say, why am I paying to be listened to if I can agree a beer with my friend that he can listen to me? You know, the sense of normality to bring to their level of comprehension, it's something that really poses a threat to the therapy because people don't know what's happening inside the setting. Now, how is it like? Usually, professionals don't talk a lot about the theory and the basis of the psychology. They talk much more about how important it is, but they don't show people what's the way, all the studies we've been doing since, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago, and we are keeping this progress all the time because we need to study a lot about this, not theory and practice as well. What we are doing now, I'm sure we all will take some ideas from each other here that to improve our practice, and this is very, very important. And then I can see um, here we have a real myth about this mental health as a whole, and in Brazil is much more the secret what happens in that room, what this professional will do to me inside. Am I really being? I will be much happier after this process. And what differs from being with a psychotherapist or being with my friend, for example? Yeah, I think it's more or
Correct.
less
Yeah.
like that.
Correct.
Hmm.
Shruti.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that Marco said, the same situation pretty much in India as well. Maybe I'll add on a little more apart from, what Marcos has also said. I think one is that India is a very collectivistic culture.
Hmm.
Almost it seems like every decision that we make in our lives, whether it's, choosing your life partner or choosing a career or, deciding what you want to do in your spare time, everything literally boils down to, what does my family member think of it? Or, is this okay? What will my mom or dad think about it? So literally, I think
Hmm.
there's this pressure to please people that's always there, and that makes it very difficult, I think, for people to just admit that they really need help. I think that acceptance has to come first, because if you don't accept, then how can you seek help? So getting out of your house and just going to a therapist itself is a big deal. I think a lot of times there are clients who call up saying, we want help, but then they barely make it because they're so nervous. They're wondering, okay, what is this
Hmm.
person going to think? Or you have couples who have, marital issues, but only one person turns up because the other person feels like, I don't really need help. Like,
Uh,
maybe I'm
hmm.
okay. It's the other person who needs to do all of the work. Or you have teenagers who really want help, but the parents feel like, okay, why can't my child trust me? Like, I'm your mom, I'm your dad. Like,
Hmm.
why do you need a therapist? You can just come to me. Like, I know you. Like, I gave birth to you. I should know everything about your life. So even it also seems like maybe some sort of an insecurity with parents seeing their child go to someone else for help. All of these things, I
Hmm.
think, trigger a lot of these things. So
Hmm.
that's definitely there, the whole cultural aspect. Apart from that, I think there's definitely a lack of awareness. So people don't know who to go to. So a lot of times when people call me up to book a session, and during the first session, I understand there are people who've been to a psychiatrist for 10 years or for 15 years. They've been on medications, but they've never ever had a heartfelt conversation with a therapist. So they've been on all of these medications. They're, trying to control all of these, bodily
Hmm.
functions, but they don't have the skills to get on with life. So
Hmm.
I think that awareness on who to even just approach, when you have a cough or a cold, we know who to go to. Or when you have
Yeah.
when your sugar goes up, or when you have a blood pressure, you know which doctor to go to. But when people are
Hmm.
struggling with a mental health concern, I think they're just confused. Should I go to a counselor, or is it a psychiatrist, or a clinical
Hmm.
psychologist? Is it a psychologist? Oh my God, like there are just so many
Hmm.
Yeah.
options. So
Hmm.
that whole awareness is also, I think, missing. And yeah, I think
Hmm.
the good news, the one good thing that's come out of COVID is the fact that people are talking about mental health now more
Hmm.
than ever, and things are opening up,
Yeah.
things are getting better.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if I was to come to you, Marcos, and ask you, what are the myths that the West has successfully overcome, maybe,
Hmm.
if there
Hmm.
are any, and if you could tell us something about that?
Okay. And I would say, Sharori, it's more based on the mental health awareness, because now we have
Mm-hmm.
even the royal family involved talking about mental health issues to the whole nation. And then people can see it really exists, regardless of your background, regardless of how much money you have in the bank, and it can affect all of us. Celebrities talking openly on TV about the mental health struggles, um, like suicide awareness. And I think all this connection, all the politics are helping a lot in this awareness. People are realizing that it really exists, and it has a massive impact. These campaigns about mental health awareness, people are paying attention, and people are paying attention. Um, I've lived here for 7 years now, and I've seen the changes, how it used to be and how is it now. Our service, for example, in the hospital, we have there is the Mental Health Act here in this country, where the law says if you are a risk to yourself or to others, you need to be brought to a place of safety. And the place of safety is the hospital. There is a special ward to deal only with the mental health. And then the police can do that, the ambulance can do that, or people can simply walk to the A&E, to the hospital, as a voluntarily. And then the psychiatric team will assess that person, and if they need to be there in the hospital for a short while or for a long period of time, they will be. They will be there. And then I work in this ward, deal with this demand. It's acute service. Um, and we've seen even voluntarily more people are going to the hospital. Or I'm struggling with, I'm having suicidal thoughts. I'm wishing to cut myself when we talk about self-harming. And then people are they are asking more for help, even with the charities. 999 is our emergency services. People are accessing much more the service. It seems like the population is understanding that mental health is as important as physical health. Of course, they don't turn so often like they do for physical health. If you have a broken
Mm.
arm or something, you run
Yeah, yeah.
and see that when you have a meltdown or something. Some people take a long time to to go for us to ask for help. But actually, you're talking here about law. When you talk about private psychotherapy, it's something else. It's something else. Mainly because of the cost, the myths we are discussing here. Yeah? And then people are still, as the government guides everything here, people are still expecting the government to provide. And the demand is so high. We don't have like enough professionals to deal with that amount of people, mainly now with the COVID crisis. And then I would say, like, answer your question, like the awareness about mental health issues. It seems like everyone is connecting the same cause now, and it's as a professional, it's I'm quite happy to see. Yeah,
Mm.
we have still a long way to go, but yeah, we are getting there.
We're getting
I'd
there,
say.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Shruti, where do we stand on the same problems here in India?
Right. I can speak
Mm,
to you, from a perspective of what I've seen. I worked a lot in workplaces, right? So
mm-hmm.
what I've noticed is at least 10 years back when I started off in my career, nobody knew anything about mental health. I mean, at least
Okay.
not a lot of companies were doing something about employee mental health, but they did have a lot of initiatives around fair practices in hiring, maybe having a diverse workplace or doing a lot of fun activities, but those were all very superficial initiatives.
Yeah.
But I think in the last 1 year, at least after COVID, all of this has begun. uh, Almost every other person that I talk to, they keep telling me that their company does have a lot of initiatives around having maybe an EAP partner, like an employee assistance provider, or having a wellness partner, a coach, or a therapist on call. But a lot of companies, at least the ones who can afford, are doing it. But when I started off, like I said, many years back, it was only the giants, the Fortune 500s and the huge corporations, they would
Mm-hmm.
invest in EAPs. But now I'm seeing even like the small and medium enterprises, like the smaller firms, are also beginning to invest because they've realized how important it is. I think that's what COVID has made us realize. It's brought everyone
Mm-hmm.
together. We're all sharing a lot of experiences and burdens together, and finally it seems like that there's like this whole wake up call. But again, a long way to go, like how Marcos was talking about how people go to a hospital when they have self-harming thoughts. I don't think that happens in India. Maybe they reach the hospital after they've done something, someone's hurt themselves and then they land up in the hospital. But proactively, I don't think that's happening. I think the max that people would do is they would call up the toll free or the helpline numbers, but even that, I think a lot of people still don't do that.
Still
So
don't.
we have a long way to go, but I think we're slowly climbing the ladder
Yeah.
gradually.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I think a lot of people are not even aware of a toll-free number.
yes,
That
that's there
awareness
too.
is also not
Hmm.
there.
Right.
And I think Shruti answered a bit of this before when we were talking about the different societies, the collectivist society and the individualistic society.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Do you think that somewhere plays a role in a person seeking therapy?
Sorry, I didn't hear the question. Can you
Yeah, I
repeat
didn't
that?
Okay,
hear a
so
question either.
does the fact that we come from a collectivist society and Marcos is mostly in an individualistic society, does
Okay.
that play a role in people seeking therapy?
Okay. Um, I would I would say so. I would say so. Because mainly here in United Kingdom, because when you talk about Indian guys, I'm recognizing Brazil. Yeah, I think Brazil and India they are quite similar in this sense. But when we talk about United Kingdom, uh,
Yeah.
we are talking about a country who which had a story of war and a lot of things to overcome historically, and I think it still plays a lot in people's minds about being strong, about overcoming their own issues without any help. Um, and I think people, this fear of losing control is something that really prevents people from going to psychotherapy. How what people will think about me if I open up my issues. And most people don't even realize there is an issue. They've lived with that for so long,
Yeah.
and it's part of their personalities now. And though they don't even realize it needs to be addressed, unless a partner will report to them, an employer or something. When this feedback comes from outside, mate, you need to address this because this is not. It can be better.
Yeah.
And then people might have a light in there. Oh, okay, there is an issue here, it needs to be addressed. Um, and I would say, in the same, uh, what I'm saying now about all the history, I can see the proactivity as well. Okay, if I have an issue, it needs to be addressed, and then I need to search for the right professional to help me. And I can see this proactivity as well. Regarding to United Kingdom, when people go to our service, for example, we cannot see everyone at the same time. Then people get extremely frustrated, and then they simply give up when the government cannot provide them the service. Yeah, which is a challenge for private professionals here because
Hmm.
everything is connected to the government. We have a free health service, and people are
Right.
expecting because the taxes are quite high, and people are expecting the health service to provide the psychotherapy as well. And I, I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and she works in the personality disorders department, and she said to get diagnosis, the waiting list is 1 year, and for yeah, and for like the treatment as a whole, it's basically 1.5 years, the waiting list. Can you imagine that person waiting for that long
Yeah.
and what might happen in their lives and everything? And then we have those two sides. We have those two sides that we
Hmm.
cannot provide for everyone. Else, at the same time, we are raising awareness. More people are trying to access the services, but
Hmm.
we cannot accommodate everyone in the same time. And then we have another barrier to the service as well, because privately again is quite um, expensive service. Um, and then people always think, oh, okay, I can deal a little bit longer with my issues without
Yeah.
asking for help at this point. There, I would say. In the same time, we have this proactivity to seeking for help. We have these barriers as well. Mm.
Uh, I think
Yeah.
Shruti mentioned about how collectivist cultures in the Indian society does affect us seeking help.
Yeah.
Uh, I want to kind of come here and ask you for a solution to that because you've explained why we don't go because log kya kahenge, quote
Hmm.
unquote, what will people say?
Yeah.
But what is the solution to that?
Right. So I think so. A lot of times, like I said, if one of the family members, let's say they come to therapy, and then they often ask, what should I tell my partner now, like, or what should I tell my family member? And I just tell them, like, be honest, like share your
Mhm.
experiences, create that awareness at home, tell them what therapy feels like or how are you feeling. You don't have to fake a response. Just tell them exactly how it's helping you or how you're feeling. What are some skills you're learning? Because I think it's very nerve wracking to even come in for your first session. People don't know, oh my God, what questions am I going to be asked?
Mhm.
Will I feel vulnerable? Am I going to feel worse? Am I actually going to get better? So all of these questions, and the best way to, I think, eliminate all of these fears. Okay, maybe elimination is just far, maybe that's a little too difficult, but at least reduce a little bit of that fear
Yeah.
by talking about your experience. So when people talk about, hey, you know what, I went to this therapist and I just felt a lot better. This is what I'm doing. 3 months back, I was in this place. I was not doing well in my career, but now here I am. I'm actually making some progress. So I think
Mhm.
there's nothing to beat real life stories, real life experiences. Of course, I think government campaigns, all of those things do help, but nothing like word of mouth. I think word of mouth
Mhm.
works best always, especially in a field like psychotherapy.
Right. Um, so, because you said that there is this whole fear of being vulnerable in front of a therapist, another big myth I think that we all have at some point faced is that if I am going to therapy, it means I am weak because I cannot control myself, my emotions.
Mhm.
And that often stops people from seeking help because they're like, I'll manage my emotions. It's fine. I don't need therapy. I can manage my
Mhm.
emotions. I want to find out how true this is in the
Mhm.
different areas of work that you are in.
Mhm. I would say, sorry, it happens at least in my knowledge as I work in different countries. This is pretty much the same. Like this fear of being weak. It seems like it's a constant thing, mainly with men. I can see in the clinical setting, this more related to men. And then I would go back in there where the boy receives the message, "You're a boy. Boys don't cry." There,
Mm,
we can start by there. This learned behavior of being strong and hold your emotion or put yourself together in situations which you are not feeling great, but it really exists, like this feeling of being judged or being seen as weak. And I think this is why we are campaigning much more for people to talk openly to their partners, to their friends as well, to ask for help. What we've seen in this COVID crisis, not everyone could access the services, but we have a partner, friends, or someone to talk to, and how important it is. And then one person can show to another, it's completely fine to feel that way and won't make them feel less or more weak. But I can see how it plays in Brazilian society and South America as a general and the United Kingdom, like this fear of being seen as weak. And if it is, what's the problem of being seen as weak?
Yeah,
Yeah, or being vulnerable at that moment. Yeah, I would say,
mm, mm,
but it's a real thing.
it is. Right. Shruti, coming to
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. What I can share about is what happens in the workplace setting. So, like a lot of times when I speak to HR leaders who are in charge of running these kind of mental health campaigns and programs, what they tell me is let's not brand it as mental health or as therapy. The
Mm,
moment you say those words, people get scared and people think that you go to therapy only if you have a disorder, like a clinically
Hmm.
diagnosed disorder.
yeah.
So maybe rebranding it, but maybe generally talking about how this is a program for your well-being or program for or like a life coaching sort of a sort of an approach. So
Hmm.
of course, I think life coaching and therapy are two different things. But the moment you put it out in a very friendly manner, where you portray it as a service which anyone can use, irrespective of how you're feeling. So it means that you don't have to be sick. It's like
Hmm.
um, you don't have to, let's say you have sugar and you need to go to a doctor, you have like high sugar, but you don't have to wait till your sugar goes high or for your blood pressure to go high. But you can proactively go to a fitness coach, to work on your fitness. Like, I just want to get fitter,
Yeah.
lose weight. It doesn't mean that I'm sick, or I can go for a yoga class because I just want to work on my well-being physically and spiritually. And similarly, you can go for a well-being program or like a coaching program or therapy, which is just
Mm-hmm.
meant for you to grow as a person. So it doesn't mean
Yeah.
that it doesn't have to be a disease model, but more of,
Mm-hmm.
it's just intended to help you
Yeah.
grow as a person. So making it look, putting it across as a service that anyone can access, anyone. So even if you're doing absolutely fine, why not use it as a service that can help you grow to become a better person, better marriages,
Mm-hmm.
better mental health. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that just making it approachable, I think that
Yeah,
works
Mm-hmm.
well, right?
yeah. Um, Taking on from what Marcos said about men being afraid of being weak, I want to also kind of bring in the myth about women being better therapists than men.
Hmm.
And I think this is a very, very important area that needs to we need to address, because I think somewhere as women also, would we be as comfortable talking to a man? And I think this is all about our mindset. If I personally don't think that a therapist has any relation with gender,
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
we do see this myth existing that women are better at therapy. Uh, and this is something I want to put out there for you to must debunk this myth, maybe. Maybe
Okay.
starting with Marcos, because you're kind of in that position
Okay.
at this point.
Okay. And, yeah, this question is very interesting because it came as a surprise. I don't think I have ever thought about it. Yeah, about this myth of this people not coming to a man because of the myths, but I can see it coming. Yeah, I can see it coming. Mainly when we talk about a male figure and what they represent. I think from the patient's perspective of seeing a male. Well, and I try to think, but it's very I don't know. It's really caught me by surprise of seeing this meat. I didn't even know it was a meat myself. Of being probably I'm so used to do probably so used to those things. Guys, and I'm really sorry. So there is a noise in the printer. I don't know why it went off though. And I would say understanding the psychology and how women might be more open to talking freely about the emotions. Because seeing a woman on the streets having a meltdown, it's a much more normal as a man having a meltdown. I mean, I'm talking about judgment. Probably this
Yeah.
myth is based on judgment as well. That men are not so open to talk about their emotion, wouldn't be very much accommodated like a woman would be. If we get a relationship, women um, very often complain the partners don't listen properly what they want to say. Is what I see in family therapy. There's always this complaint. Very rare the men complain the woman doesn't listen. And I
Hmm.
think all of this construct this myth about men being this very harsh, this stone based on going there, um, chase the food and bring home, as we're talking about our ancestors. Um, and I don't know, it really taught me, like knowing that people are not coming to me or the males because of these myths. And I didn't even realize it was a real thing. Yeah, it was the very first time. I don't know if you can help me to process this information, but yeah, but thinking now about women being more open and more maybe more emotional uh, than men, I would say so. I'm a little bit even confused, like to express my thoughts on it. Yeah, I really. I haven't thought on my whole life about this. Yeah, to be honest. Maybe you can help me to process
Yeah,
that a
I was
bit.
just about to say that maybe Shruti can help us out here because I'm really
Yeah.
sorry I took you by surprise with
Right.
that
Okay.
question. But
That's completely fine. This way we grow, isn't it?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah. Yeah, I think it could vary from, country to country as well.
Mm,
I don't know if it's just therapy, but maybe it's the larger picture of how we have like gender stereotypes, where boys are expected to be tougher generally, or even at the workplace. If a man leaves work early, because let's say if it's a single father who's raising children, if he left work early, then I don't know how people perceive, but if a woman left early, so things are just perceived differently when the man and the
Hmm.
woman, when they do the same thing, but things are just interpreted very differently just because of the gender difference. So it just seems like a larger, it's not just a therapy issue but more of a gender issue, a diversity issue. And I would say start training children, not training, or when you bring up kids, start young. So as young as when they're 2 years old or 3 years old, not conforming to, stereotypes, giving a boy a doll to play with, or given toys that are expected to be played by boys, you can give that to girls as well. So why not? Like boys can play with dolls too. So I have a son who's 4 year old, and I used to give him all kinds of toys. So it doesn't matter whether it's blocks, cars,
mm-hmm,
buses, or even dolls. And there were a lot of relatives who asked me like, "Why are you giving a doll?" But I said, "Dolls are nice. Like it teaches the child to nurture and to care and to love. And empathy is not something that's meant for women or just for men. Empathy is like a
mm-hmm.
universal thing, right? We
Yeah.
all need empathy. We all need to love. We all need to be loved,
Mm-hmm,
and that's a global universal emotion, a skill, a value. So why
mm-hmm,
confirm it to any gender? And I think the
mm-hmm,
only way we can change it is by talking about it, you know being different, trying to consciously parent, bring up
mm-hmm.
children, and start. I don't know, maybe I feel like psychology should be introduced as young as when kids are in
Yeah.
kindergarten. Yeah,
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 that's
And
true.
I
I,
would
I
say,
really agree with you.
hmm.
and I would say, if I may, that thinking about my own practice, my clients very often say, "No, I prefer men." As a health professional, as they prefer, um, I don't know, men physicians or men dietitians, they would say,
Hmm.
no, I deal much better with men. And some of them, no, I can deal with men. And that might be a matter of preference as well. I mean, bring it to a more normal thing there,
Yeah.
our identifications and everything. People would say,
Hmm.
oh, okay, I feel more comfortable talking to a man than another female. Yeah, it might as well be their
Hmm.
sense of choice as well, no?
That's
Right.
true. Marcos, I want to come to you about something because you're originally from Brazil. You're still
Yes.
working there, and
Yeah.
you're also working in England. And I
Yes.
want to kind of ask you how the difference in culture, the difference in demographics, how all of this affects people's perception towards therapy. Is
Hmm.
there a difference, and how?
Yeah. I think there is a huge difference because we really feel that need of being connected to our families, to our friends, the sense of togetherness. I think we have this very well established in Brazil. For example, Mother's Day is a very big event in Brazil. Father's Day as well. Connected to the family based, um, something very, very important. But here, the days go by. It seems like it's not a very big deal. People can spend many, many uh, times without seeing their relatives, and we, at first sight, we get shocked to say, "Oh, what's going on?" Because we in Brazil, we always expect an opportunity to have a party. We always, my friends and I, we always talk about this. We want to celebrate as much as we can every day. Um, yeah, I think this plays an important role when we talk about psychotherapy, because when people don't feel okay, someone else will give you the feedback. Oh, there is this professional I know, or there is a psychotherapist. I think you will benefit from the service because people cannot rely on the government like to provide the service for everyone. And then people rely much more in families, in friends, someone they can talk to, and from there this conversation might happen. Um, and psychotherapy in general is seen with a very good eyes from the Latino perspective, and the problem might be maybe the price they have to pay for the services. Yeah, people won't um, leave something behind to pay for the therapy. They will rely on this surrounded help, family and friends, but they will delay a lot until if people were generally more wealthy, I'm sure they would seek for psychotherapy more often. I would say so. But here in United Kingdom, I think it's much more matter of fact. What I can see and what I can do. If I'm not feeling okay, what I can do to feel okay. And I don't see all this emotional connection all the time. You don't see the emotions in the air all the time. And I think the climate plays a lot on it because, most of the time is gray. And the weather plays a part. The winter is very severe. Usually it's sunny all the time. And I can see from um, Brazilians living in London in general, how they complain. They got literally depressed here because of lack of sun and lack of life in this sense. Like in Brazil, you open your windows, you see the blue skies, you see the sun. Here, I think it's a bit more rare, and it plays a part on people's mental health as well. And I would say, for us in Brazil, we are a bit more open to talk and accommodate someone else's emotions. And here in United Kingdom, we are much more matter of fact. And I can see the difference in theoretical approaches as well, and how CBT here is much bigger than in Brazil. Yeah, with a more structured model of work. Yeah, is much more is widely spread the CBT here. And in Brazil, we are talking much more about the humanistic approach, for example, where people can talk freely and longly as much as they want, and much more this structured module. Then, yeah, these are the difference I can see from both places really.
Shruti, I want to kind of add a separate question for you, but you've answered the COVID, how COVID has made therapy better. But I want to kind of pick out from what Marcos just said with Brazil having the social support and therapy kind of coming out from somebody else's mouth and that way helping people. India also has a lot of support, social support. But I want to ask you if that can be a good way or a bad way, or does it tend to be both sides?
Yes. So I actually see, it's a double-edged sword here. So so people in India, we love big weddings, big festivals. There are festivals throughout the year, like every month, I think, because we have so many different states in India, and every state has so many different customs, and it's very diverse. I mean, I think there probably are like 4 or 5 festivals every month. There's always a reason to celebrate. There are weddings, there are life transition events, there are maternity, and so many things to celebrate about, right? So, and that means that our life and our routines are sort of interwoven into these kind of cultural practices. That means we step out a lot for these kind of weddings and functions where there are 1,000 people, 2,000 people attending, and word of mouth might work if you had to meet like a doctor for your physical illness. But I think when it comes to mental health, so I do see people who do talk about it, who do recommend therapists. I had a good experience. Why don't you check this person out? If you're struggling, maybe this person can help you out. And there are a few people who do reach out, but a large number of people, I think they shy away. So like the place that I stay, I don't think any of my neighbors would come to me because they're scared that that all the problems that they discuss in this room are going to be talked about in this whole town. So nobody wants to come in here, or even my friends. So I haven't like got a lot of referrals from my immediate close friends or my immediate relatives because they worry that okay Shruti might know about it, and maybe the my friend will know about it, and then that other person is going to know about it. But of course, as a professional, we all maintain ethics. But people find it really hard to trust because of the fact that, especially in a small town or in a rural setting or
Mm,
a smaller town, people talk a lot. Everyone knows everyone. So
yeah.
it's different. But maybe in an urban setting, I see it's a lot different. So I see like a lot of, so I've lived in Delhi and in Cochin. So Cochin is not as urbanized as Delhi or Mumbai is. So and I see the trend is very different in Delhi. So nobody really cares. No one knows who's living next door, or no one really bothers to interfere with
Hmm.
each other's lives. So and I think there I see a lot more referrals, word of mouth happening. So a lot to do with the urban rural urbanization. I think that has a huge impact to play as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Right.
Um,
completely agree.
bef- yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely
Before I
agree.
move on to the last question, there is one more myth that I personally wanted to kind of add in. It wasn't in the questions at all, but I think it just came to my mind and I need to address it. Is that the myth that mental health practitioners and workers cannot have a mental health issue? The fact that we are often told that why are you manage your own stress, or
Yeah.
why are you going through this problem? You studied it, you are in the field, why are you unable to manage your own problems, and why do you need to go to a therapist? And
Hmm.
I feel like this is a little unfair on our part because we are humans too. And
Yeah.
if we were
Yeah.
able to, I keep telling my friends, if I listen to half the things I tell people, things would have been so much
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah.
But I want to put forward this myth and this out there because I think there are a lot of people who need to understand what mental health professionals go through. So
Hmm.
that is where I want your opinions. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I understand this process as, when you leave graduation. I think mainly, let's compare my realities here. In Brazil, it's such, how can I say, a big thing being a psychologist, and everyone looks at you as if you were like a perfect person, if I can use this word, and nothing will happen to you. You go through life without any concerns. And
Yeah.
some professionals, they trying to reinforce this. They really believe, and then I think the professionals play a part as well in not open up a little bit more, or even their practice. They're humans as well. And I can see mainly there, some people really like this projection. The clients do, no, okay, you are better than me. And then I would say, when you need to have your supervision, you have to have your personal therapy for you to grow in the same speed as your clients, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I can see all my 18 years, I've seen a lot of different things, mainly from professionals committing some mistakes that are very, very basic because they don't work on themselves. Um, and I think all of these um, reinforcing these myths about, okay, you are so perfect. Why are you feeling depressed now? I mean, I'm talking about Brazil. And then when we talk about United Kingdom, it's a different ball game. Yeah, where people share a little bit more. When you see my friends, social media, they do whatever they feel like. They're not afraid of this judgment. They are more part of the picture than someone mistake better than everyone. Even when I started working there in the hospital, what caught my attention was everyone, for example, in a group dynamic, they would talk about themselves. So this is happening to me. This is not happening to me. With the patients, everyone together, and we don't lose respect. We bring the patients together. Yeah, and this was something I really learned here in this country because when I came from Brazil, I came from this structure where the psychologist is another category of human beings. Yeah, with yeah, I would say. And then I can say I'm a much more integrated professional now, seeing this reality than I was before. And I can see psychologists psychologists who come from Brazil know how they get completely lost when they arrive here. And like I said, there is this myth, this retaliation from the patient to say, you see, you're not that perfect, and I need to judge you. I think there is this game as well. Yeah. And on the other hand, some professionals who trying to benefit from it. And it's not the way, is it? I think you need to understand and be kind to yourself, be kind to others, because we are pretty much the same. And I can see the two sides, what the patients expect from us and what we expect from society in general. Yeah, is what my sincere opinion about this maze.
Definitely.
Shruti,
Yeah,
coming to
yeah.
you.
I think pretty much, the same, similar story in India as well. So that, psychologists are supposed to be perfect. And I think the way we can normalize this is also talk about our imperfections. But I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying you have to be vulnerable and go all the
Exactly.
way out and share all your,
Mm-hmm.
trauma and your pain.
Yeah.
But just
Yeah.
being yourself, being human. But even in therapy, sometimes if it's needed, it's all right to, I think, share a snippet of an experience which you
Mm-hmm.
feel, if you think it could benefit the client, it
Yeah.
could inspire the client
Mm-hmm.
without taking a lot of time, of course, 2 minutes of something that
Mm-hmm.
could help them. Why not? Because I think
Yeah.
that helps as well to, show the world that you're also human, but not with the intention of showing them that you're human, but the idea
Mm-hmm.
is to sort of, I think,
Hmm.
inspire the client. So yeah, talk about it. And when you go out as well, whether you're attending parties or you're, meeting up with your friends, uh, yeah, talk about, just be yourself. Like you take off that psychologist cap when you're
Yeah.
outside your office and
Uh-huh.
just be who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, I think the last thing that I want, although I mean, this is a topic that could ideally go on for hours, but we'll have to come to a close at some time. But what I want to find out is that myth, any perception, myths are all basically man-made. It's not something we are born with. And how can we as a society debunk these myths about therapy and spread more awareness about it? And I mean, if you could give a message to the people who are watching, where we won't just believe in the myths when we hear it, if you could just, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm loving it. You're giving me priority to to talk first. It's always women first. I'm loving this equality here for me to talk first. Thank you. Yeah, and I would say, like for us to be ourselves and mainly for the therapists, let's maybe understand both sides, the society and our class and how we are involved on it. Um, for us to trying to be a little bit more accommodating, really, what we were discussing before about these myths and the way people see the psychotherapist, it can bring a lot of different myths because we give space for them to think about us. Yeah? I think from the point you express a little bit more about your work and show yourself as a person, I think it can maybe debunk a lot of different subjects about us. Yeah. Will that person really accommodate my needs? Yeah. Does it look like he will judge me? On my service, I'm saying people saying, Marks, because I'm 6'3", I'm such a tall guy. Marks, I would never thought about this in a million times. He would be so accommodating. You see, and something very very simple. It's just who I am and how I can evoke a lot of different ideas about my work. Eh, And I think we are lacking like in human connection, like in a very basic level. You can come to me. I will do my best to accommodate your needs. Yeah, but I think we as a world we are much more um, aware of this mental health issue, and I think we are in the right path to talk and discuss much more about this. Even the hospital, we are trying to humanize much more the physical health professionals, the doctors to accommodate a little bit more, and I think it will help us as well. Yeah, for them to talk with a little bit more care about us. Why am I referring you to psychologists? Why am I referring you to psychotherapy? Because I think you might benefit. Because some of them simply say, "Oh, I think you would benefit from psychotherapy," and people don't even know what it is sometimes. Which is a professional who will help you go through this much better than me at this point. My work stops here, and someone else can take from here. Um, I think it's in general, even for us professionals as well, as a network, that your general practitioner to say, yes, I'm referring because I feel you're going through this fast, and this is the professional who deals with that. And then another opportunity, this person might be able to advise another relative. Yeah, I've been through this and really worked. And this is what I'm trying to say. Important for the therapist to work on themselves all the time, and for the whole network to discuss a little bit more and give a little bit more value and time for us as mental health professionals. And each will simply spread the word. Yeah, alongside with the campaigns and all this movement we are doing now. Getting this wave of COVID, unfortunately, it's a terrible thing. But for us, in the same time, it shows and that's very very clear. It's important to look after our mental health when anything else is working. You need to keep yourself well to be able to overcome these issues. And then I would say for us to be always in the same page, without any stigma. Sometimes this stigma comes from other professionals as well in the same field. And then I would say it's not this relation. I don't see as isolated factor as people and psychologists. I see in general what people think, what the psychology represents in a team. Hold my patient as a physician will benefit from psychotherapy, and I think it's always value as a general that what people think and what our colleagues think as well as a society. I mean, for us to be in the same frame of mind, and I'm sure people will engage as well.
Shruti.
Yeah, yeah. When it comes to creating awareness, I think a lot of times we know, but we don't speak up when needed. So to give you an example, I just about 2 weeks back, I had like one of my family members come over for lunch, and he asked me, what do you do? And okay, so all you do is listen to people, and you charge them a hefty fee, and he laughed about it, and that's all you do. You just listen to people, crying and saying
Yeah.
stories, and I just froze for like a second. It just took me a second to react,
Mm,
and I just had a very small smile. I was trying to just lighten up the situation, and then his son, he broke it, and he broke the conversation, and he jumped in and he said, but dad, that's not what it is. That's not what she does. The other friend of mine, which I spoke about the other day, she went to a therapist, and she was struggling with some grief. She lost someone in her family, and she did go for counseling, and that really helped her. So the moment he shared that story, and he didn't laugh it off, so he didn't try to humor it, or he didn't treat it as a joke, but he spoke up for that second. I mean, I'm sure he, when he asked me that question, it was supposed to be, he thought it was funny, but those things, I think a lot of times when people say jokes, it's not just a joke. Maybe you have to sort of step in and correct it. So yeah, I think knowing is okay, but
yeah.
speaking up, that I think
Yeah.
that's what takes a
Mm,
lot of courage. And a lot of times, I think, even though we know, even as psychologists, we may know the answers, but sometimes we choose not to like get
yeah.
into these conversation. We think, okay, just
Mm.
let's just let it go. But yeah, I think talking just really helps.
And I find
Right.
I find quite draining. I find quite draining sometimes to have to
Mm.
explain the whole thing, isn't it?
That's true. Yeah, it is.
Now you say, there we go
Yes.
again. There we go again.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes you're like, just okay, fine. I can't explain this all over again. Just let it go. Let it go.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Think
yeah.
what you want, and
I,
that's.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much to both Marcos and Shruti for giving us
Thank you.
a part of your time. And I think the world is rapidly changing, and I think it's become very important to to understand therapy and mental health and how it can change our lives. And thank you for being a part of this conversation and for educating us and sharing your views and hopefully debunking some very, very, very important myths related to therapy. And to all of the people who are watching us on YouTube, thank you for watching us. And I hope you will be a part of our next conversation whenever that is, because our conversations have just begun. So thank you so much for being a part of it.
No,
Thank
you're very
you
welcome.
so much. Thank you. Thank you. And this was really interesting, exchanging views from different countries. So we touched on Brazil, UK, and India.